Tony Morales, host of the Koreatown Storytelling Program. Today we have a very special returning guest, Jonnie Park, aka Dumbfoundead.
Nice.
How
Thank
are
you
you,
for
dude?
having me. Am I the only returning guest or?
So far.
Nice. Yes.
But last time you were here, you were talking about a project you were coming out, and I don't know if it was the first time you had mentioned it, but you said, I have like a book coming out, Spit, and you only gave like a sentence or two about what was coming through, right? But
Yeah.
it's finally out, man. How do you feel?
I feel great. And maybe like at the time it was something I was still maybe figuring out, I think, of all the things I'm trying to say with the book, because I would have definitely shared details on it, I think, if I was further along on it, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's out, and I'm happy to share it with the world,
And when I realized that you were kind of still working on it towards the middle of the year last year, there was a reference in the book more towards the end where you talk about an interview by Earl Sweatshirt that really connected.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one that he was doing during his press run for Live, Laugh, Love, but it was about the cliche becoming like something, right? It was what did it? What
Was it
does it say?
apathy or something? Was that?
It's you said when you live long enough for a cliche to be profound.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
Wait, I just heard this like I could have sworn this was like a couple months ago where Earl Sweatshirt said this, but I'm like, that means you were still in the writing process around that time.
He was saying regarding his title, right? Live, Laugh, Love.
Live,
Yeah,
Laugh,
exactly.
Love.
Yeah.
But how long was that process for you from writing the book from start to end? Because like I'm referencing that interview because that was like in August, if I remember correctly, when he said that. So it was kind of close to the end of the year.
I mean, since linking with the publisher's Third State, that was probably about 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the things I've shared in the book are things that I've been thinking about for, over 2-3 decades, that I've been like workshopping. Obviously, I do tons of interviews and stuff, and there's kind of media trained answers that people have seen of mine, where whether when I'm talking about identity or Koreatown and all my upbringing and what hip hop means to me, like there's things you tend to kind of say over and over again in interviews, and you kind of tweak it a little bit, make it better, maybe add something to make it funnier. So I've had all those, but I really wanted to compile it into something more in depth, and that's what the book was for me. And it was kind of my way of like putting everything in here that I've thought about, expand on it, let it out into the world, and I don't have to say it in interviews anymore. Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to avoid. I'm like, how can I come up with questions without any spoilers? I'll put it that way.
Nah, I mean,
in the book.
we talk about it,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to read, hopefully those spoilers will make people want to read it more,
For sure. I want to start off with the intro of the cover. Well, first off, the cover's right here.
Yep.
It's you.
Yeah,
Photography.
I'll put it over here.
Cool. It's right there too. What was the approach? Somebody said, dude, you gotta look like you're beat up or
Yeah. I mean, just I feel like just to show that, in these battles, it's not just always triumphant, like you come out battered and bruised, and and I feel like that. I feel like more rugged and more thick-skinned and more ready to take on the world from some of the experiences I've had, not just in hip-hop, but like my life experiences with my family and upbringing of this neighborhood that made me tougher, so.
Yeah, for sure. And then one of the big things is the way you introduce it as well. You say it's to all the women who made me battle ready, right? And then in that first photo, it's
it's my sister, my mom, and my grandma. I feel like even looking through a lot of my old photos, it was always like my sister and my mom with me a lot. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Like I grew up with a lot of women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't really mention much of your grandma. Besides that, there was like a paragraph where you talk a little bit about. I'm assuming this is your mom's.
Yeah,
mom?
that's my grandma. I didn't have like I didn't know my grandparents that well. But definitely my mom and my sister were definitely pivotal in my life. You know what I mean? But I do just love that picture.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a very Korean American picture. Like I'm wearing like a classic like Stussy shirt. My mom's wearing a Jordan jersey. My sister's wearing some sort of like Laker hat. And there's like a boat behind us. It feels like very immigrant, like Korean American photos. So that's why I really love that photo.
For sure. And then there's another thing that that you start off with before even getting into the table of contents, which is it's just a quote from Tupac, right?
Yeah,
From
yeah, yeah.
I ain't a killer, but don't push me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just what I feel. I feel like I never was in the offense of like trying to battle people. Like they always came to me. So that was, I just love that quote. It's like I'm not a killer. Like I'm not. But
Yeah.
if you push me, like
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
go there. You
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah, and throughout the book, you make this reference of like even like thinking about like
Jackie Chan. Yeah,
Jackie
yeah,
Chan
yeah.
and Bruce Lee, but it's like, oh, like don't make me, but I will if I
Yeah.
have to.
That was
Right?
Jackie Chan's comedy because like every time there's all these thugs trying to beat him up, and he's like, I don't want no problem. But then they start fighting, and then he whoops their ass. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like that was like an analogy I always had with kind of my style a little bit. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. You know, I also think of that quote. You're referencing Tupac, and I grew up listening to Tupac
Yeah.
for sure. But even when I'm thinking of this last year, I ain't a killer, but don't push me. It kind of reminds me of this Dochi bar.
Yeah.
With more recently, and that's what I love about hip hop. It's like you're able to trace kind of the lineage of
Yeah.
these different things, and that's something that you do a lot through your book is connecting the lineage even of your music and
For sure.
connecting it to Project Bloat and stuff like that. So
I've always that was really important to me, kind of to share all these places and people that meant a lot to me. So this isn't really just my memoir. It's like it's a really like a piece of history that I wanted to share about other people that I really respect. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool, cool. Now I want to ask you, what's the first story that you wrote down when you began writing your book? Where did you start?
Well, I felt like I needed to kind of share the story of my family real quick, just to not real quick, because I mean the first chapter is pretty long, but it's just I wanted to make it clear, like people may know me in the last like 20 years, but like what made me the way I am, you know, what made me use humor a lot, what made me be able to withstand this arena of battle rap that's really tough to endure. You know, not a lot of people indulge in this like subculture. So like I wanted to set up like what my household looked like and my childhood looked like. So I had to talk about my father. I think my father was like a big factor in the way that I am, and it was because he was a little bit cold. He was, you know, could be abusive and such, and he brought a lot of the stress from work to home, and it made us a certain way. We like really watched the way we spoke around him, and we also wanted to really leave home and escape and run around the city because of it. And that's literally the first chapter is me wanting to leave that dinner table with my father, and which allowed me to roam the streets of LA. And beyond getting in trouble, I also discovered beautiful places and found my second family in that way. So I needed to set up what that looked like.
Right on. How did you approach that memory, recollecting that memory?
You know, I mean, it's something that I remember clearly. It was like it wasn't a joyful experience, so it's something that I always knew I didn't enjoy, like that dinner time, you know. So it was the reason I wanted to leave the house. Like if the home was a fun place, like I wouldn't want to leave it, you know.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think also one of the things that I got from the book, within the first few chapters was this, you know, you're talking about the things that your parents bring home, but also at times you would go with them to the workplaces that
Yep.
they were, right?
Yes,
Throughout the different eras. But as you, for someone who would help out your parents and also work with your parents, what perspective did you gain when you were doing those kind of things as a child?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in downtown LA when my parents would take us along to work in the wholesale business, like fashion district, toy district, overstimulated. You know, it's real a swap meet life. You know what I mean? And a lot of Los Angeles people could relate to this. Very mixed with Latinos, Asians, the black community. Like everyone's there, and a lot of things are happening all at once. You know, it was half fun and half like just overstimulating. It got boring real quick. You know, but it's just like immigrant life where a lot of parents can't afford a babysitter, so we just go along with them to work. But it also taught me like it showed me a lot of the grittiness of the city. You know, these places
Sure.
are like right next to Skid Row.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a big reality check of like there's a lot of people struggling out there, whether you're unhoused or have addiction problems, So it was a really gut-wrenching, like, reality check, I feel.
No, for sure. Even because I grew up also selling with my parents at different swap meets.
Yep.
But it also kind of teaches you, like, damn, like, the way people interact with even, like, haggling. You know
Oh,
what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Haggling is a big thing.
haggling.
Yep.
But also another thing you talk about is, like, even having those friends who were having similar situations, and y'all would just kick it, get together, and then move around the city,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
kind of one of those important, also, friendships you build, right?
Tons of friendships. It really made me value, like, what hard work really looks like, and what hard work for a lot of immigrants look like. Obviously, we were Korean immigrants, but we saw a lot of others struggling, like Mexican Americans, and they would bring their kids, and
Yeah.
just see, like, it made me really empathetic to each other's cultures and our individual struggles, and it just made me also know that, like, yeah, like, when our family's struggling, there's another family struggling even harder, So it really opened my eyes to all of that.
There's a specific chapter where you highlight different parts of Koreatown that have meant something for
Yeah.
you throughout the years. But I do want to focus on one specific
Sure.
location, which is one that's near us on
Okay.
Western and Wilshire.
Yep.
And then you talk about that being one of those moments that you get humbled
Oh,
about a situation
yeah,
that
yeah.
goes down.
Yeah, I didn't think that was gonna be brought up, but it was like a scary moment where, like, a gangster put, like, a gun to my head. That you're talking about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're talking about that being one of the situations where you're humbled, and I thought that was interesting that happened right here. But another thing that you briefly mentioned, but you recently shared on your socials, was La Gran Marcha, right?
Yep.
And where you were posted up as well on
That was right there, Wilshire and Western. Yep.
Wilshire and Western, right? I want to know more about that experience. How did that come to be? Like, did you just decide, like, hey, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna freestyle about the situation? Or
When I was a young kid, like, maybe like early high school days, I was, like, involved with some friends that did a lot of, like, activism work, and also, like, I'd frequent Kiwa, Korean
right.
Immigrant Workers Alliance, and over there they opened up their doors for us to freestyle. I talk about it in the book, and it showed me, like, a lot of people doing work in the front line, and I think I was a young kid that didn't really know what I was chanting about all the time too, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of young kids, like, they want to be active and involved, but sometimes it's, like, very performative because they don't really know the details.
Right.
And I was the same way in a sense. I mean, I cared about these things because obviously I came from Argentina. I had tons of Latino friends, but I was just a kid thinking I was, like, I don't know. I was just out there just with my fist up and, like, chanting "Si se puede" and, like, But it was amazing to see, like, just that many people marching on the streets, So that's what that was. And me and some Asian friends, like, part of Kiwa, they set up speakers, and we were just freestyling and chanting and getting people, like, worked up,
Yeah, no, I mean, that was cool. That's a cool location, and a cool thing to look back on. I know we've gone into, like, the details of the book, but I want to bring it back a little. I want to talk about the co-author of the book, Jonnie Park.
Jonnie Park, yep.
How was that connection, that relationship into writing this book? The way I think about it and the way I saw it was, like, I don't know if you've seen that, like, Thug and Dirk kind of meme where
oh yeah,
where he's on the
of course,
computer.
yeah, on the mixing board, yeah.
That's how I saw, like, Donnie being on. You're like, dude, you gotta make these edits. But what was that relationship like writing this book together?
Yeah. So Donnie is, like, he's like a big bro to me. We've known each other for almost 15 years now, and he's never written a book. I reached out to him because there was a lot of similarities, both of us as Korean American men who are also huge hip hop heads. We've had many conversations in the past about all those things. So I brought him on board, and I think the best decision I could have made, and not, instead of, like, working with a stranger who might have had more experience in writing a book, I think I just needed somebody I could really trust and kind of talk about these things in a very comfortable way. And who better than that is a friend who might be older than you and you have respect for as a journalist,
Yeah.
So it was a very smooth experience.
How did y'all meet?
He's still one of the heads at Complex, so he's a big dude at Complex, and he's been in hip hop journalism, pop cultural journalism for probably 30 years. He used to write for The Source, Double XL, vibe, and it has been in Complex for almost like 20 years now. So he's OG, yeah.
I mean, that's a big portion about what you speak of around, also in the book, is like having these elder people as mentors, right?
Yeah,
As people. I
for
think
sure.
I don't know the exact word that I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's like this older brother kind of
Oh, Hyung,
relationship.
Hyung,
Young,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
young.
No, he definitely is a Hyung, yeah.
But but that's a large portion of also, that's something that you mentioned in the book, is like having all these older figures,
Sure, yeah.
and also not only within life but also within hip hop, right? Someone you mentioned is No Can Do.
Yep.
Man, it was cool to see that, because I'm like, I mean, I know about No Can Do, but
Oh, you do? Oh,
yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
but people don't, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like a specific kind of scene, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, he actually was able to even like he's had different eras too, because at one point, you know, he was hosting Low End Theory in downtown Los Angeles, and but what I know him as is like just one of the greatest like freestyle rappers and battle rappers that I looked up to. And at the time, thinking I was like just this arrogant kid in high school killing it in cafeterias. And that first night I go to Project Blowed and see this kid, skinny black kid wearing dirty chucks and camo shirt with Dickies and just absolutely destroying fools. So he was a huge figure for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's also the way you describe yourself when you're like, oh, like, dude, just like skater fit, but you see all these other people and you
And
coming
that's
through.
why I related to him, and I was like, I wouldn't mind like sounding like this dude, you know?
I do want to bring this up just because we're also talking about places in Koreatown. It's the Line.
Line Hotel, yeah.
Yeah, the Line Hotel, right? And you talk about this moment in time where the Line, you know, it was bringing different people into the community.
Yep.
But you also talk about like the parties that y'all threw, right?
Yeah.
Yourself, with Roy Choi. What did you see? You kind of briefly mentioned it, but what's that shift that you saw that happened during that time?
Well, first of all, the reason I even wanted to talk about like a party scene in the first place is because I think like these scenes might just seem like just everyone's just drinking and having fun, but it does mean something. You know, there's like spaces for people, right? Like I love when there's like some sort of specific like Latino night or like a black night or an Asian night somewhere. These are spaces for people and the communities to throw something special, you know. I remember hearing like an audio podcast that the homie like Walter Hernandez did about like the party line back in the day, where like young like Latino kids would like call in and they'd like get matched up in certain audio rooms. This is like before your time, I think.
Yeah.
This is a little
yeah.
before your time, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just things like that is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so special. Like, and it's a time and an era, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Um.
You talked about parrots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, you
right.
listened to his series then?
Yeah, it's a
Okay. Cool.
series.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the homie. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote a book on the Compton Cowboys, and he has a movie coming out too.
It's fire.
But yeah, like so, like yeah, like just things like that. I felt like it's important, you know. But you know, it's like those things don't last forever, and it didn't at the Line Hotel. But there was one point where it was like hundreds of like Asian kids were just in the lobby twerking, you know, every weekend, and it was lit. And it became kind of the hub for like young Asian American kids to party in Southern California, you know.
For sure. I mean, that's the part of the hubs, and you've mentioned it before in our interview. It's like these community centers that kind of help build that, right?
Yeah.
Even as a starting point, and then people take it to whatever level it is that they want to take it to.
Sure.
Going back to this idea of older
Mhm.
figures, but also I think a large part of that I also find it growing up was in books, in literature,
Okay.
and in
Yeah.
music, where you see that that these kind of people that you see yourself in, and you're like, you know what, maybe I could do that, maybe I could
Yes.
be a part of that, whether it be No Can Do. And I think your book does something similar in that aspect. To you, why is storytelling important in our community?
I think it's important because there aren't a lot of people that may have the opportunity to tell their story. So to me, like, once I have a platform, it's important to share some of these stories for people who feel voiceless. You know what I mean? And I think we need to encourage that to like up and coming generations, because I think a lot of the older generations, including my parents, felt very voiceless, or maybe still do, and so they just think it's not even ideal to share their stories, or they might think it's a burden, or they don't see any value in it, you know. And I see extreme value in storytelling, you know. it creates more opportunities. It brings more funding to our communities where things are needed. You know, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of like a big thing for storytelling too, right? Like if you don't share the story, no one knows what's going on in these worlds, and they'll just walk right past it. You know?
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Most definitely. And I think something that you also mentioned in your book, specifically what I was talking about earlier, is that you stepped out of California, of LA, stepped out to these different locations around the country and around the world, and people, were saying how important you were to them, right?
Yeah.
How was it for you, like, when you first heard those kind of, like, those kind of things? Like, how did that impact you?
I just realized how thirsty my community was for, more representation and more content from people that look like them, and it was really fascinating. And it also made me really take my own community for granted, just because I think growing up in Koreatown, I had so many cultural elements, walking around, seeing street signs in my native language and Korean food and a mixture of other cultures, right? Like I could go to Echo Park in Silver Lake and get a different experience. I can go to South LA, I can go to like Venice, and everything's so different, and you get different groups of people. But there's a lot of people all over this country that don't get the same experience, and they're very thirsty for culture, hungry for culture. So that was what was eye opening for me, and that's why I loved kind of bringing it to them when I was touring.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. A couple more questions. Also another pivotal moment that you mentioned in the book is actually going to Korea.
Yeah, the motherland.
Right.
Yeah,
And low-key, I didn't know about all the things that you've, like, the connection to K-pop,
Yeah.
but also the connection to a bunch of, like, the culture that's building up in Korea when it comes to hip-hop. And maybe this is more of a question that I have, but I don't know if you recently saw Knowledge and how he said he moved to Japan and how, like, he felt like he was getting more opportunities out there than here. But so that kind of reminded me of that portion in your book where you're saying a lot of your peers were going to Korea because they felt they had those opportunities out there, right? But when you reflect back on that, why is that they're able to find more opportunities outside of the country?
Well, I think the American dream isn't the same thing that our parents were pursuing anymore here, and that's why a lot of young kids are going back to their native countries and creating new opportunities and bringing their own flavor of things that they grew up on here and adding a twist to it, and I find that interesting, honestly. I mean, this country is just like, it's not the same thing that it was when we were kids growing up, and we live in more of a global world, and I talk about this in the book. When I first went to Korea, I felt so much more superior because I was from America. And it's not the case anymore, really, and we can't act like it is. And there's some amazing things happening in scenes all over the country, whether it's in South America, Africa, Asia, Mexico has a great scene, youth culture, music, art, film. So just knowing that, it's just like, I don't know, like it makes me want to do more stuff in Korea as well.
Awesome.
Because obviously, also, like, I don't want it to just be K-pop, we have a great, like, film scene, and so those things is things I'm passionate about, and I think it's kind of a rite of passage, for, like, immigrant kids living here, like, going back home to the motherland, but you have a deeper appreciation than when you go with your parents. When you go back as an adult, you can actually find these pockets of really cool subcultures that you can involve yourself in.
Yeah, man. And last thing, I mean, you're traveling back. You're back on the road, man. You're this time for a book tour, not a rap tour. But how's that feel? How are you excited for it? What are you looking forward to it?
I'm extremely excited. I'm just excited to share this book, and I think I just hope people don't take it as something that's like a hip-hop heady thing. It's not just hip-hop heady. There's a lot of, like, little pieces of history, and they're just told through my story. Hip-hop's a big part of it, but there's so many different elements, and I think people are going to be very surprised when they dive into the book to find that out.
Most definitely, man. It's a LA story, Koreatown story, Korean American story. It's all of that. Music story as well. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Yo, thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to come back a third time so no one could take my spot as the most visited person.